dads.
Oh, no. We're going to start out with the tough one, baby. Okie dokie. Parliament of Papas. What? Joe brought this in.
I sure did.
Wow. We went with this one to start. All right. What punishments? You know what, Joe? You do it. You do it.
All right. All right.
This is deep, man.
So lately I've been hearing different news articles about how there are still schools in the U.S. that, well, they either are still allowing corporal punishment, paddling and whatnot, or they have re-allowed it. And so the question was, what punishments should a school be allowed to perform? And I should preface, all of the news articles that I've seen, it has to be with the parents' permission. But even then, thought it would be a great discussion to have. So Charles, what do you think?
So welcome to the show, Hammond, where we keep it light and fun throughout the whole day.
I feel like I feel like I should be wearing clown makeup or something to help lighten the mood.
All right. So Joe, this is not a good one. When I first started getting my kids into school, I was of the mindset that they need discipline, that they need guidance, but I was also of the mindset it'd be kind of a partnership between the parent and the teacher. I'm like, I'll give you permission, depending on what, well, up to essentially paddling at the time. I believed in paddling back then at that point. But the first fallacy was that, in my opinion, and this can be controversial, whatever, but the first fallacy is that paddling works. I don't believe it works, but we can talk about that later. Second fallacy is that any parent is going to be allowed to be a partner with the school. It is such a load of crap. And quite honestly, I think the whole entire school system needs to be torn to the ground and rebuilt.
Different topic, man. Different topic.
I know.
Stay on target.
I think Joe did it, man. Joe did it.
I agree with Charles full-heartedly on that. It was established in the early 20s to establish conformity and compliance. It wasn't to invoke imagination and growth. And I think it does need to be burned down. And I do think it needs to be revamped for.
I am not arguing that point at all.
But it is a different topic.
It's just a different topic.
Oh, I know. I'm just backing up Charles because I thought he was on an island there for a second. So
Lonely Island.
Used to it.
I am used to it. Thank you. But it is hard to get to that point of, if everything is so messed up. I don't know, because I am an involved parent. That pissed the school off, right? I wanted parent-teacher meetings. I wanted to go in and review the homework. I wanted to know how to help him better at home, my oldest son. That's who we broke ground with all the schools with, was him. I wanted to work with people. Okay, I understand you don't paint in broad strokes. Broad strokes. You don't paint broad strokes.
That's an ANTP joke for those paying attention.
Yeah, you don't paint in broad strokes, but in my experience, 80% of the teachers I have met in my kids' school careers are freaking morons. But then you flip that to where parents think it should be free babysitting. It's too complicated, Joe. I don't know. I am not happy with any punishment because they don't know how to do it equally and balanced to every kid. And they're so afraid of a lawsuit and bad press that's literally, oh, Joe, you're making me angry, man. I'm blur that Hulk. I'm blur the Hulk. I'm wearing my green. Because there was a girl the last day, my daughter who just turned 18 yesterday, the last day she went to high school, was this bully who had been messing with her in school threatened to get the lazy, fat piece of crap security guard's gun and shoot my daughter. And she said it in the lunchroom in front of a bunch of people. And they suspended her for a little bit to do the investigation. And then when I was taking my daughter back, of course, we pulled her out of school immediately and talked to the school, blew it up. And it's like, no, this is no. And you don't get to just kick it down the road. You got to deal with it. They let her back into the school when they said they wouldn't, and then they tried to play. They lie. They play things off. It is worse than politics on spin. So, Joe, thanks for ruining the show.
The schools around here, if someone threatens to bring a gun or have a gun, any mass violence, they're automatically sent to juvie. Like that's just how it's done here.
Maybe that might be a little overkill depending on the age of the kid. I don't know. But in this case, we thought, no, you're done. You're not going back there. And we lit them up. We got the news involved. It was a mess. And that's where I don't have an answer to what punishment should they be allowed to perform, because it is not going to be balanced and spread across equally.
I fully trust my kid's teacher to have
your kids are homeschooled. Your kids are currently homeschooled.
You are spot on. And I trust my wife. I trust my wife with any punishment she wants to dish out.
So I will say that I don't think the schools should have any say in punishment, because the teachers are biased and they do have favorites and they don't have the training to avoid power struggles. And when you have a kid who's got issues, whether it be dyslexia or some other kind of twice exceptional learning stuff going on, they see that as problematic and troublemaking instead of what it is, which is something that needs to be worked with. And so sometimes they jump to conclusions because they don't have all the information, because they're used to teaching and dealing with the most exceptional children and the biggest squeaky wheels. And the middle group doesn't get anything because they're too busy being spread across.
And I like what you mentioned, because you said they don't have all of the facts. I remember in middle school, there was one teacher, she was a substitute, and I was sitting there minding my own business, and the girl in front of me, I guess she was having a bad day. She just turned around, grabbed all the stuff on my desk, and hucked it across the room. And the teacher just sent me and that girl to in-school suspension. I'm like, I didn't do anything. And she apologized later, because the entire class was like, Joe didn't do anything. And so... yeah, but so many teachers jump to conclusions on what's going on without any facts. So
and also, anytime there's a kid who says no or tries to explain something different that's out of the norm, there's a reaction to that because they need everyone to be compliant. And so when you start getting into punishments, it starts becoming personal. It starts becoming power struggly. It starts becoming targeted, and it's not evenly handled. It's not evenly balanced. It's not equally dispersed. And so for schools to do that, they're actually providing less opportunity and more opportunity for struggles. Like the classroom was a terrible experience for me. I hated being in the classroom, which is why I graduated a year early and I got out of college so fast. But I hated the classroom experiences. My youngest is the same way. She got into a power struggle with a teacher who didn't want her to get up and sharpen her pencils. She's left-handed and liked having a sharp lead so she could be legible still, because she's left-handed. And the teacher wouldn't let her do that. So she started breaking the pencils, because that way she could get a new pencil that had a sharp tip. Well, then she got in trouble for breaking the pencils. And so my wife's like, how about we bring in mechanical pencils? No, because they're distracting. And it just turned into this big wad of crap. And it was just, it was, schools shouldn't have detention. I get, whatever, that kind of stuff where there's things that happen and you just have to put them and make them do some extra work after class or whatever, fine. But any kind of touching, no. If a school touches my kid, I'm going to come in and they're going to be picking up teeth.
And see, there's that, and I'm got you, Kurt. And I'm gonna give a devil's advocate at the end of this. But Kurt, back in the 20s when you went to school, what was it like?
Yeah, so that was just a couple of years ago.
Sure.
We're
His
still in
memory's
the 20s,
people.
dude.
The 2020s.
No, here's the thing. When I was going to school, there was no corporal punishment. So there was nothing like that. However, there was humiliation. And so
I'm honestly asking, did they still have the dunce cap?
No, but they had things like if you got caught chewing gum, you had to stick it on your nose and wear it around school for the rest of the day.
What?
Yeah, in 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade, I had teachers that did that.
Yep. So I'm very much, look, it's a very complicated problem.
Yeah.
From
Thanks, Joe.
Discipline end of things. But I think a good place to start, no violence, no humiliation. Yeah. That's a good place to start. Like, there's a lot of other things to iron out, but if we start there, that helps a lot.
You know what?
So,
I actually think it starts at home, because if
Oh.
the kids are being taught respect and taught how to behave certain ways, then they can go into a public setting like a classroom and not be jerks. And I think that's where it starts. Is that
Agree
way?
wholeheartedly.
Yeah. So I mean,
Yeah.
if your kid is, in a classroom mucking around on his phone, it's because he's at home at the dinner table mucking around on their phone. And we had rules like no phones at the table. If you sit in the front seat of the car, you're not on your phone. You're engaging in conversation. I mean, there are certain things, and there were times where my kids would opt to sit in the back seat so they could muck around on their phone, and I was fine with that, because as long as they weren't sitting in the front, that was fine.
Yep. So we've gone down this road a little bit in other episodes, but one of the things that my sister, who shall not be named, at one point asked me, "How do you get your kids to behave?" Because her kids raised holy heck all over the place and would scream by their main way of communicating was screaming at home. And I simply said, I told my kids no.
Mhm.
And well, how do you get them to follow what you said? I said, there is no choice. I'm the parent. Like, and I'm oversimplifying it, obviously, but if you start early, then it isn't difficult.
Oh, and the other part too is, even if there are choices, you control the choices. You can say, we want to go to a restaurant out to eat. Which one of these three would you like to go to? All three of them you're okay with, so you don't care what the answer is.
Right. But
you're
you
talking
control the narrative.
Yeah.
No question about it.
Yeah, but you're talking about giving agency. I think, Kurt, you said the simple start is no violence, no humiliation. I think we take a step back even further to get started. And as simply as I can put it, draw a line in the sand. You have a choice of schools to go. You can homeschool, you can do whatever. But the line in the sand is, if your kid comes here, these are our standards. And you don't get to come and yell and scream and try to bully your way for little Bobby to do it. You also don't get to send your kid here full of bruises and obvious abuse. The line in it's a goal-oriented teaching. Did they make the grade? No. Here's what we're going to do to help them remediate. And I know that's the devil's advocate. That's the caveat. That's the other side of the coin is, the system's overloaded. Yeah, you got the good kids, you got the horrible kids, and the ones in between are getting ignored. You got teachers who want to teach, and the parents and the principal and the system won't let them. And you got teachers who don't give a crap. And I've told the story many times. You got teachers who don't know how to teach, who write wrong problems on the board, then try to hold my kid accountable. But if we step back and start working on accountability, which all this is, you guys are talking about respect, telling them no, following the rules. If we just did that and told the parents, you have two options. You let them come here, and these are the rules, and this is what we're going to do. We do not care. Doesn't matter if you're black, white, anything. Doesn't matter, boy, girl. Doesn't matter. Human being comes here, they learn. Oh, we have ways to identify that learning method doesn't work. We're going to give them we're going to get the resources. I know that's a unicorn. It's an imaginary thing in the school system. We're going to get them the help they need and not just go, all right, everybody, one size fits all up to the next grade. But it is that account. I've seen that bully's parent was in there fighting for her because her daughter was innocent. Her daughter had been kicked out of 3 other schools for the same thing. And they kept moving the problem down the line instead of doing something to help this girl who still could be helped, who might someday either just live a miserable life or actually kill somebody, right?
Well, so
we can help her, and we're not.
I spent the better part of 10 years working with troubled adolescents who were, drug addicts, gang members, criminals, all kinds of stuff. And they were in locked facilities because they were a danger to people and themselves. And, when they'd first come in, the expectations were hard for them to kind of live and guide by because they hadn't had any or didn't listen, or they weren't made to listen. Couple months in, things start to calm down, and then they learned all the stuff that was good, and they were clean and happy and healthier, and they'd eaten, and all the things were going better for them and getting good grades. And then we released them back to their parents, and 6 months later, they were right back where they started. Or I'd end up seeing them when I worked in jail. So I mean, it was just it's systemic when it comes to like accountability at home, but it's also systemic when it comes to accountability just in the world in general.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Joe,
I just want to say one more thing. I'm sorry. I agree with 90% of what everybody has kind of come to the conclusion on. I was just trying to stay within the confines of the question.
Well,
this is why
you were playing the rules
twice a month.
Rules suck. We're not listening to any rules.
Yeah. Look, you do that again, Kurt, and I'll just tell everybody. I can't tell.
I'll make you wear gum on your nose next time you follow a rule.
There you go. we're gonna send you the.
Let's see how that works out.
Now, Joe, you cheater! I'm gonna flip it back on you.
Okay.
What punishments should the church be allowed to do when your kids are there in their custody while you're off it? I'm assuming you'll have like a kids' church while you do the big people church and all that jazz and camps and whatnot.
I mean, they just come and get the parents. That's
okay.
That's what our church does.
Don't ask a question you can't answer, sir. This is not how this goes, son.
I don't know how other churches work, but that's what my church does.
I have a very cynical answer that I'm not going to say.
What if they're at camp? Do you have no scenario where your children are not with you or family?
What about like girls' camp? Do you have girls? What happens at girls' camp?
I've got boys, but yeah, my son has gone to an overnight camp, and there's one leader that I'm good friends with that I say just text me if he's acting up and consult with me.
This is the new 1%er, y'all. He might not have the billions that puts him in that number, but he sure has the privilege.
Well, so I think
just tell me my kids being bad. I'll take care of it.
No. So I think that's a good lesson in general, is to know who your kids are going to be with so that you can communicate when there's an issue. So, rail on me as much as you want about being a 1%er, but
you listen to the show.
But I think that's a very important thing in your kid's life in general, is to know who they're going to be around and to have a repertoire with them.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I think that goes with teachers. I think it goes with friends. When we had our kids were going over to people's homes, we didn't just send them blindly. My wife or I came over and met the parents and hung out with them for a while and got to know the parents so that we understood what the environment was we were leaving them. And if the environment was kind of squirrely, we didn't leave them.